So yeah, fashion industry is accountable for 4 to 8% of global CO2 emissions. And then, of course, it also has massive environmental footprint across the line. I think the industry is challenged in terms of sort of being recognized as a leader in sustainability because it's based on this mechanism of constantly fueling the need for new. But if we were to really address that bit, I think actually the industry can inspire others. I've always said if we can change fashion, we can change everything. Because it's such a, difficult industry because of the consumption patterns, the overproduction, the overconsumption side of things. But because fashion is such a cultural indicator, it has so many ties back to pop culture, music, film, a lot of the things that are sort of setting the trend and mood in society. If the fashion industry decided to make it cool to think, to shop differently, to be more conscious, to wear things more, to buy vintage, all of those concepts, then it would actually be helping set a trend that will trickle down and into the broader system. And so I think fashion really holds a big responsibility, but also a big opportunity and potential to actually be an indicator, a change maker, and set the trend for others. I think there's a side to the whole dressing up and changing your clothes and social media sort of influencers that almost change clothes 2 or 3 times a day. That's kind of insane, but it also has a side of it that's really fun and playful and creative. And I also wouldn't want to take that away, but it just has to come with a balance. You need to think about what it is you're imposing. And that's where I think digital clothes is really fun to sort of replace some of all those outfit changes. So it isn't actually a product that's produced. And I also do think that if what you're changing into is somebody else's wardrobe, and if you think creatively about it, because I really don't want to take away fun or creativity and ingenuity and beautiful design that the industry is also offering. It's the overproduction, overconsumption vicious cycle, and it's the lowering prices and not being willing to pay the externalities, which means all of the costs that it also had to produce the product, which is not just for the company and the retail space, but really the river, the forest, the ocean, the people working, the sourcing, the natural materials and all. So I think if people were willing to sort of pay for that, we would honor products more. We would consider what we buy and not just think of it as something we could dispose as easily. So I think a lot of it lies in that. I think to fight the bigger environmental challenges we are facing, we really need policy involved. We haven't seen, now we've tried for more than 2 decades to really get the industry to move. And even if the industry is moving, it's maybe 50-60% of the industry that's moving forward. You'll still have 40-50% that's lacking behind and basically just still producing shitty products at low prices, and they are successful in putting it into the market and keep marking them down and people buy it because there's still a demand. And there's also growing middle classes that also wants to get access to the products that many of the Western world countries have had for so many years, and who can blame them? So we need legislation. We simply need to tax carbon heavily. We need to tax water. We need all of those resources, because that's going to hit people on the wallet. And I'm not talking about the everyman, but the businesses, the business owners. And that will help make systems that are less extractive, where we protect natural resources much more, and where it cannot be a good business model to have high carbon emissions. It can't be allowed. And it should be, I think we need policies to enable that unlock first. So you have to look at the material input. And I think it's a place that any company can start. And I think that looking at what your product is made of and how it's put together is really where to begin. Because that is also where the biggest environmental footprint is of the entire industry, right? So it is an easy win to do that. I think in this region, I have a sense, and it goes for Australia as well, that you have such a stronger connection to nature and so much more respect for even indigenous cultures and people. And concepts like circularity might be a concept, but actually nature did it always. And if you ask the indigenous people, they'll say, what's that about? That's exactly how they live, and that's exactly how the respect for nature has always sort of been preserved. So I actually think that you can be, coming from this region, you can be carrier of a really authentic story about thinking nature first in sourcing materials, in the respect for nature, in the giving back, in the regenerative practices, and so on.